Krishna, 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 hey. Hang on a minute, folks. Hey, Govinda. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvasesha Sunyavari Paskachar Desatarani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Is this fresh water, do we know? Or is it 5 years old?
We'll make sure it's...
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, because we have a varied audience here, different levels of understanding of ISKCON, I'll explain. GBC means Governing Body Commission, and it's Prabhupada's arrangement for managing his growing worldwide society. It comes actually from one of the few things that works in India. It comes from the Indian railway system. They have a governing body that runs the rail, at least in Prabhupada's time. We're back to 1960s. So I'm not sure the year, I'm thinking 1970, but I could be wrong. Prabhupada, as the movement was growing in more and more temples, he established a council of some senior leaders who were particularly good at management to help organize, steer, and guide his society. What he wanted to do was focus on his translating work. So he handed over the management with his supervision, obviously. So that's what GBC stands for, thank you very much, Prabhu, Governing Body Commission. Now, we used to meet once a year in Mayapur, Prabhupada said in Mayapur, the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our world headquarters. And all the problems, Prabhupada said, spiritual movement in the material world, a difficult proposal. We should not be surprised that there are problems in ISKCON. We have the vast majority of devotees are very sincere, intelligent, working hard for Krishna, but things happen. There's challenges from outside, there's difficulties inside. It is the nature of this world. Ramaswara asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, we're trying to serve Krishna. Things are going along smoothly, and then there's difficulties. What about Krishna's mercy? And Prabhupada laughed. He said, actually, this whole world is chaos. That is the default state of the material world, especially in Kali Yuga. Quarrel, confusion, chaos. He said, Prabhupada said, actually the manifestation of Krishna's mercy is that things go smoothly most of the time. That's actually Krishna's mercy. So there are difficulties. And those that nobody else can solve bubble up to the GBC. So in Mayapur, we gather together to solve, whatever the issues, so many things. But then, and the credit goes to a devotee named Gopal Bhatta Prabhu. He said, and he's a very successful businessman and a nice devotee. He said, many companies that are successful or organizations, they have a special, they set aside, once, maybe twice a year, and they think about long-term issues, strategic planning, not just the immediate thing that's in front of your face, and if you don't tend to it, it's going to burn the house down. But where do you want to be in a couple years? How could you improve? And specifically, how to make ISKCON a better, happier. You can always improve. Krishna's full, fuller, and fullest. Mathura, Vrindavan, or Dwarka. So you sort that one out. Full, fuller, and fullest. So you can improve. We can always improve. In the spiritual world, all the devotees are always increasing and improving their service. So we meet now. It's been going on for a number of years, maybe since 2015, 16. We meet once a year. It's called the midterm meeting, as you can see right there. And we try to think about how to we deal with long-term philosophical issues that need to be resolved. We deal with how can we make ISKCON a better world for the devotees, and how can we expand the outreach, the preaching work. So that's what and also a few, we've got to deal with it now, issues wash up onto our desk. So that is the midterm meeting. It's in the middle of the year usually, and we often do it in India because it's Kartik time, and it gives us a chance when the meetings are over, we can go to Kartik. But we also like to do it different places of the world because it gives a chance for the devotees to, in different parts of the world to get to know their senior leaders. Oh, okay, there it is. Because after all, we have it's called, what is the name of it? Not parallel lines of authorities, but what's the other name for? Harmonizing lines of authority. We all have our spiritual master, our Diksha Guru who's giving us initiation. But guess what? We're also members of ISKCON. And we have leaders who manage ISKCON. This is really going to spin many people around. Actually, the ISKCON gurus, the Diksha gurus, are under the authority of ISKCON's governing body. They're actually authorized, they gain their authority to the degree they're following Srila Prabhupada's orders. And one of Prabhupada's orders was work with and work under the GBC. So we have those different lines of authority. We have our personal Diksha Guru. We also have Siksha Gurus. And everybody is under the GBC. Prabhupada in his will, the first line of Prabhupada's will, his final directive to us, was that the ISKCON governing body is the ultimate managing authority of ISKCON. So there it is. So this is our midterm meeting. It happened in the Villaggio Hare Krishna in Milan, Italy. Next. It was for 5 days. This is a picture of our Milan temple. It's about an hour drive, a little more than an hour, outside the city center of Milan. It sits on 50 acres. It's actually quite nice. It's a beautiful, there's the temple building, but in addition to that, it's the headquarters for the Mediterranean BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. And so they have a big warehouse, so many things there, and the offices for the books in the Mediterranean, South Europe, so many. And they print for a number of other countries, Albania and Moldavia and all kinds of far-out places. And in addition to that, they have about 50 acres that's a village of devotees. It's a devotee township, and there's all kinds of houses. It's quite nice, and it's all devotees. In order to get permission to be their own village, they, in part of building all the houses, the individual grihasta homes, they had to provide some facility for the local, not the devotees, the non-devotee local population. So they had to build, they could put in a movie theater, or they could put in a golf course. They could put in different things, which the devotees don't want to do, So, but one of the options was a swimming pool. Well, swimming is a Vaishnava sport. It's good exercise. They put in the swimming pool. Being Italian, Prabhupada said, the Italians also know how to feast. Being Italian, they also put a bakery in. So you've got the indoor swimming pool, and you've got a nice Krishna-conscious Govinda's bakery. After operating for about 2 years, there was a complaint raised at the local community, whatever it is, city council, not us, but and the complaint was, we don't know, we go to swim at the Hare Krishna swimming pool to lose weight. But they've got this bakery that is so attractive, even though we're swimming for a half or an hour, we're gaining weight. This is Italy. This gives you a flavor of the place. So they had a big discussion what to do about the Hare Krishna bakery. Now, some people said take it out because it's too tempting. But the majority of the non-devotee population said, no. We'd rather be fat, but visit at the bakery. So the bakery's in, So it just gives you a flavor of the place. Okay, next. This is inside the temple room, and I would like to draw your attention. Look at the ceiling. Now, you can't see the details, but it's Italy, the Renaissance, the home of the, they know how to do art. It's in their blood. It's like Bengalis know how to sing and, play madanga, and it's just in their blood, most of them. So in the same way, the ceiling has half of the ceiling is all Krishna Leela. And there has to be some clouds, otherwise it's not Italian. And then on the half that you can't see is all Chaitanya Lila. So you've got Krishna Lila and Chaitanya Lila. And Prabhupada points out that on the cover of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, devotees said, Prabhupada said first deserve, then desire. But a devotee asked Prabhupada, I don't know what to decide. I want to go back to Godhead, but do I want to be in Krishna Lila? Or do I want to be in Lord Chaitanya's Lila? I can't make a decision. Prabhupada said, don't worry. If you look at the cover of the first canto Bhagavatam, which Prabhupada designed, you can look at the first canto Bhagavatam. You can be both in Krishna Lila and Lord Chaitanya's Lila. You can relish both. You don't have to choose one or the other. And then I heard personally, I was sitting in the room, in the LA Temple Room, the old LA Temple Room, and Prabhupada said it can actually be day and night simultaneously in Goloka Vrindavan. Day and night simultaneously. Cowherd boys on Govardhan Hill, Krishna dancing with the gopis with a beautiful full moon on the banks of the Jamuna. Wrap your mind around that, oh three-dimensional Prabhus. Okay, so next, that's the temple room. This is the beautiful deity, Sri Sri Radharaman, and a nice Vyasasan for Srila Prabhupada. Okay, next. Now, there were 19 members. I've forgotten how many members of the GBC, active members. There's a few that are on leave of absence and for health reasons or are working on retiring, different things. So there were 19 members of the GBC. Of course, you can't really see. Where is our chair? Our chairman this year is right here, Govardhan Prabhu from South Africa. He's also in charge of the African BBT. Something like 200 languages in Africa, yeah. I don't think we're in all those African, but we're in many of them. So that's the members of the GBC. Next. So the way it works is that we have different presenters that present on different topics. This is organized by we have an executive committee. The spiritual world is actually quite well organized. There's different groups of, there's Radharani, then there's Vishaka and Lalita, and then it expands out to different manjaris, and there's all kinds of concentric circles or groups. And it's the same thing with the cowherd boys. It's the same thing with the cows. So it's quite it's not mechanistic, or oppressive, but it's well organized. So we have an executive committee. It rotates every year. You've got 3 members of the GBC Executive Committee. Maybe this is too much detail, but I think you should understand it. There's 2 vice chairs, and there's the chair. And the senior vice chair, when you first elected to the GBC Executive Committee, you start off as a junior vice chair. Next year, you move up to a senior vice chair. And the third year, you move up to the chairman. That way you have a chance to get to know the different issues, know what's going on. You're not just thrown into the job as the chairman of the GBC. You've got, I don't know what the number is today, but it's something like 650 to 750 temples, schools, farms, restaurants, preaching temples. Initiated devotees, it's in the tens of thousands. and congregations in the millions. ISKCON's pretty big, actually. So, relatively speaking. So this is Radha Krishna Prabhu. We have someone, they've had some time, month or so, 2 months, maybe longer, to prepare for their particular topic. What's their particular topic? Then they make a presentation, and this is one of the presenters, and they present that to the full GBC, all the members in attendance, this time 19. There's also the minister in charge of deity worship. There's our minister for agriculture. There's our, different ministers. There's our attorney. We have a very good attorney. He's one of the members of the GBC, Devaki from Singapore. He's also a wonderful preacher. Govardhan knows him, and he's a good kirtan leader. So this, just so you know, we're personalists. We're not impersonal. So this is Radha Krishna Prabhu. Shivaram Maharaj resigned after very responsibly training up Radha Krishna Prabhu. He's the GBC, it says there, for Hungary, Turkey, Romania, Moldavia, all kinds of far out places, So, and Balaram's been there to ISKCON Turkey. So he presented on 2 different topics, 2 different sessions. One of them is succession. Everybody should be moving up. One of the signs of a leader is a leader should always be training someone to who can take over for them. Whatever they're doing, they should be training somebody to take over, because then they can expand their service. If somebody can do what I'm doing, then I can do something else. So, and we need, bhaktas, from the time you move into ISKCON, we should be training you how to become the head of the kitchen, how to become the head of how to become a temple president, how to be a temple treasurer, how to ultimately become a GBC member if it's in your nature, if you have the skill set, if it's your inclination. We should be training people. My daughter joined, it's a long story, but when she first was hired by Amazon at 24 years old or whatever it was, she was immediately put on an executive training course. They sent her all over. They sent her to Australia, and she learned how to do things. So we should be doing that. So how to improve our succession, what programs we have. We've established the GBC College. That college is, you can go there, you can take courses, learn how to be an expert cook, learn how to do expert deity worship, learn how to be a temple president. There's a session taught by a Swavas Prabhu, who's an A+ manager, and puts on that LA Ratha Yatra. You have no idea what goes into the LA Ratha Yatra. It costs about $200,000 a year. All the permits, all the refrigerating trucks, all the boga, all the city permits, all the police overtime. You have no idea. And Swavas and his better half Tadit, his wife, are such expert managers. They pay for all the expenses and they make money. That's Prabhupada liked it. That's good management. So there's a course on how to learn how to put on a Ratha Yatra. So many things. You'll see that in a minute. So this is Radha Krishna Prabhu. He's a member of the GBC. He gave a session on succession and a session on varnashram. And we'll talk about those things later on. Next. This is Krishnanam. And I smile because I know these devotees. They work so hard. And they're intelligent. And they chant their rounds nicely. They know Shastra. They're solid devotees. Krishna Nam was giving a presentation on how to improve, fiscal responsibility and accountability. How do we manage Krishna's money? And it's not that we're going to centralize all the finances. Prabhupada said, don't do that. He wanted each temple to stand on its own strength. But we should have comparative, the same financial accounting systems. We should know how much money ISKCON's making, how it compares to this and that. We should make sure the money's secure. We found out that the restaurant manager in Mumbai was been skimming off money off the Bombay restaurant for years, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Krishnanam caught him. Krishnanam, he's a former director of KPMG. KPMG is one of the top accounting firms in the world. Deloitte and Touche, there's about 4 of them that are on the top. And he was for all of Northern Europe. He retired, and he's helping tighten up the accountability, the fiscal systems. We should have investment funds. Catholic Church has billions of dollars in investment. We should have money. When Cuba opened up, we should have had the money in the bank to buy a first-class temple on the main street. We could have bought it for peanuts. Now you can't get it. It's unaffordable. But it just gives you an example of the kind we should have health care for the devotees. Okay, so that's the kind of thing, that's strategic planning. How do we get there? How do we get from where we are now to where we need to be? It doesn't, the first 200, 300, I can't think of the dates right now, the Christian churches, they were being thrown to the lions. So you don't get an institution, a worldwide, world-class institution overnight. Takes time. Okay, next. Then after the presentations, there's multiple breakout groups. And because all together with the deity ministers and the different people there, along with the GBC, there's probably about 25, 30 people. So we'd get a presentation, then we'd have breakout groups, maybe 5, 6 people in a breakout group. That way everybody gets to speak. Some people are shy, some people are, whatever. So if you have breakout groups, you get different ideas. And then the chairman of the breakout group or the coordinator, then they make a presentation. Hey, our group came out with these ideas or these problems or why that's not really going to work. And then we all we discuss it. So there's a presentation, there's breakout groups, there's a presentation to the full GBC and the full audience, all the deputies and ministers and everybody. Then it breaks into subgroups so everybody has a chance to talk. And we get a bunch of good ideas and some bad ones. That's how you find out what works. And then we meet again and as a full group, and there's a presentation. And from that comes resolutions, proposals, decisions, like that. Okay, so this is an example of one of the breakout groups. Next. This is a slide from the presentation on global outreach. What could and should be done or undone to build strong global outreach strategy, book distribution, so many different things, but not just book distribution, how to, the whole internet world and what's going on with that. Next, let's take the next one. This says, I don't think you can read it, clarity and understanding how and why people join us. Why do people join ISKCON as full-time members? Why do they join as congregation members? What is the progression? How can we improve that? How can we expand it? They're doing fantastic tough stuff in Russia. We've talked about it before. So by connecting all the stages, better results will flow. This is kind of, these are, you know, Rubik's Cubes? They're all scrambled up. This says therapy. And this guy's coming out. He's all aligned. You see how all the colors are? He's been straightened out. So if we don't understand the issues and what people are thinking, what are people thinking now? And they're thinking different things. In Africa, in Europe, and in India, and in different parts of the world, China, different people think differently. People join ISKCON for different reasons. And Prabhupada said intelligence means, outreach, preaching intelligence means the devotee should understand what are the advantages and disadvantages. Prabhupada said every place has advantages and disadvantages. And part of preaching intelligence is to figure out, okay, how to maximize the advantages and minimize the disadvantages. That's intelligence. You know, we're not meant to be dull-headed. We're meant to think about things because it matters. We're talking about conditioned souls after, nitya bhata, unlimited lifetimes in this material world, and they get the 1/11th association of a devotee. How do we maximize that? That's compassion. That's love. That's deep spiritual understanding. Okay, so that's to give you an idea of the kind of presentations, and then they elaborate on it. Next. Now, this is Parijata Mataji. She's one of the ministers for the ISKCON communication. We have different, legal section, financial section, communications. So she's a very smart person. And so she was talking about it's called the 50-60. 50-60, we got to gear up for it. Well, what? What's 50-60? So the 50th anniversary of Prabhupada's disappearance is coming up in a couple years. And we want to, prepare for that around the globe. And the other is ISKCON's 60th anniversary, the 60th anniversary of Prabhupada's establishing, incorporating ISKCON. So those two were overlapping, and how to, combine the two and maximize it. This is something our communications department's working on. So 50-60, this is Parijati Mataji. She's explaining. This GBC support time, it's ESO, means Executive Support Office. So we have our 3 GBC Executive Committee, we described that, but they need support. Here in San Diego, a tiny corner of the world, you can drive up, not Claremont, but whatever, that Claremont area. There's a huge complex. It's for the Catholic diocese for organizing their churches and all their relief programs and their education and the whole thing. They have a multi-million, $240 million budget and staff. Until 25 years ago, ISKCON's entire administration folded up into a metal trunk and was locked till the next GBC meeting a year later. Whatever records and fit in the metal trunk. That was our total administration. How are you going to run? We have the most important message in the world. Prabhupada said the last best hope for the world is ISKCON. Shouldn't we have the best delivery system? It's our duty. So anyway, this is, and you'll get more about that. The way this 50-60 thing is going to work, local devotees get fired up to do something for the 50th 60 combination. Just like Ladli threw her heart, and Mahabharata's wife, threw her heart and soul into Prabhupada's, what was it, Padayatra? Well, not Padayatra, was Prabhupada's Centennial. Yeah, through Prabhupada's birth. And so many events happened here in San Diego. It was really nice. So local devotees get fired up that they want to do something about this. It's not going to be the Central Communications Office. They'll make banners, they'll give you templates for how to put on programs, they'll train you how to approach the media. They're giving support. But they're not going to, you're not just going to open a can and everything's ready to go. Devotees who are fired up about this around the world, and there's so many nice, energetic devotees around the world, then they'll support it. So she was presenting different options, different ideas, like that. Next. Let's see, yeah. So this is day one. It was for 5 days. We'll try to plow through this quickly. The morning session, Govardhan Prabhu, our GBC chairman, it says there, how do we keep ISKCON together? So many movements fall apart, morph, So he was talking, anyway, you can read it there, Guiding Principles for Institutional Resilience. Excuse me. This word, the presentations and stuff, some of them have some business language in it. So what does it mean? Institutional resilience. Means over the course of time, things become watered down. IBM used to be the sharpest in the world. Now they're behind the curve. So how do you keep your organization sharp? How do you grow it? How do you, see trends coming beforehand? So he was making, it's a whole, I don't want to make the whole presentation, but that was how do we stay true? How do we keep ISKCON growing, expanding, and pure? And obviously, we have to stay true to the principled standards that Srila Prabhupada gave us. And ultimately, we have to be. Jayadvaita Maharaj met a lady at JFK. He was getting some money changed. And she was just a typical New Yorker, looking behind her counter, not even looking up, no personal connection. She happened to look up, and all of a sudden, she saw Jayadvaita Maharaj, shaved head, tilak, nice saffron cloth. She said, "That's what I like about you Hare Krishna people." She said, "You are what you pretend to be." She meant to say, you are what you're supposed to be, So are we who we're supposed to be, or are we pretending? So if we stay true to the principles of Bhakti as given to us by Prabhupada, nothing can stop us. Prabhupada said we can only be stopped inside, not from outside, if we become off the track. Okay, so there was a worldwide survey. Over 700 ISKCON leaders, temple presidents, devotees, members of congregation. What do you think about ISKCON? What do you think about the GBC? What would you like to see us focus on? We've got our ideas, the members of the GBC, but how do we actually know what people want and what they need? Or where they're off the track. How do we know? So this was a first-class survey. And over 600 senior leaders around the world in ISKCON. So sannyasis, what are they thinking? So that there was a review on that and so many things. And obviously one of the conclusion was, challenges, communication gaps, and the need for more cooperative culture and care systems. Next. That was kind of the fruit. So something that came, actionable outcomes. Establish a regular two-way GBC frontline dialogues. I mean, there is some business, jargon in here. But that means, just like with India, there's some tension with some devotees in ISKCON India. We need to work that out. What about South America? It's a whole continent. Maharaj can tell you there's so many nice people. But, they need help. They don't have so much money. I mean, the money's there, actually. But, how to develop the place and how to help them and how, so many different things. Brazil kind of got off the rails there. How do you get it back? I'm being frank with you, So that's what's packed into this. And this is stuff that came out of that survey. Next. This is the afternoon session. Later on we'll be talking about one of the initiatives is the children's ministry. There's a great wealth in our congregation. We have devotees, I don't want to mention names, but there are some senior leaders who have been affected by Alzheimer's or, dementia. It happens. The body wears out, and some people, genetic, and their, whatever their family line, things happen. How do we protect against that? What do we do when that happens? Retirement and someone to step in is one. But there's other issues. Trivikram Maharaj, I'm sorry, a nice sannyasi, mental dementia, went off the rails, was chasing after one of his disciples. You got 500 sannyasis, one or two go off the rails. It's just the average. It happens. So this was a first-class doctor. She's an initiated devotee. Grew up in ISKCON. So there's a great wealth of talent. This was another topic. How do we marshal that talent and get them engaged to help us in ISKCON? Okay, so these are just highlights. University in divorce. This was Madhu Sevat Prabhu and Pragosh made a presentation. Well, I'll just be frank. Does it say it there? Krishna West, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj's mission, Bhakti Vedanta College. How do we deal with these things? How do we maintain what it means to be? Prabhupada said if you keep adding water to milk, after a while, it's no longer milk. So there should... Somebody was, some Gaudiya Math person said, we should be able to, we want to be in ISKCON, but we want to do things our own way. And you've got Prabhupada as the founder, Acharya. But, we want so-and-so Swami, we follow him, but we want to be in ISKCON. It's a real thing. Well, just like you want to follow, shouldn't there be a place in the world, an organ? There's so many Gaudiya, this branch, that branch, this Maharaj, that. Shouldn't there be a place in the world that's purely following Prabhupada? That Prabhupada is the founder, Acharya, the standards he set, the goals he set, the philosophical understanding he set. As you've got a right to exist, doesn't a pure ISKCON following Prabhupada have a right to exist? Rather, isn't it our duty to protect that? Okay, but how do you deal with these groups that are friends, or Krishna Light, ISKCON Light? How do you deal with all that? Prabhupada said we should learn from the Catholic Church. There's things we should learn what not to do by watching the Catholic Church, and we should learn what to do. They are one of the sole institutions that for 2,000 years has basically hung together. I mean, we can talk about the Reformation and all that stuff. But the way they deal with it is orders. They have, if you want to focus on education, okay, you focus on education. You don't want to wear the habit, but you want to, So how do you deal with that? So they've created different orders. If you have a system that doesn't have flex, if there's an earthquake, it's going to fall apart. They've got to sway, they've got to flex. That's how, you build a skyscraper in Taiwan, which is part of the earthquake, zone, because it can flex. So you've got to have systems that can flex or you're going to break into pieces. At the same time, simultaneously one and different, Prabhupada said unity in diversity. How do you make sure you don't lose your core? How are you not just adding more water in the milk, adding more water to the milk, and the thing becomes not, just water? How do you balance these conflicting forces? So that's what this discussion was about. There's some practical examples, Krishna West. Where does it fit in? Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. The Catholics, they have what is it called? I forget the name of it. It's some Latin something. But, and they make sure, okay, if you want to be in order, like St. Francis, wanted to be austere, wanted to return to pastoral preaching. That you become too fat, too opulent, this and that, So they gave him an order. They let him set up, okay, the Jesuits, they focus on education and higher education. So, okay, how do you balance? But they also have a section in the Vatican that makes sure that, okay, if you step over the line, if you go too far, that, outside philosophy, well, then, so that this whole thing, what we're talking about, is developing core ISKCON. There's organizations, they want to use ISKCON's name for fundraising. They want to raise they want to use ISKCON's name because of our multiple accomplishments, and they want to get fame and recognition. But accepting the philosophy, accepting the GBC, our governing body, Prabhupada said should be the ultimate. Well, they don't want to be that. Prabhupada joked it's like standing on the doorstep. And if they say, hey, if you want to be inside, here's the house rules. No, I'm outside. But then you want to take advantage of the house, and you're on the threshold. No, I'm inside. So you're inside when you want to be, you're outside when there's some responsibility or obligation. Well, that's, how do you balance that? These are the things we face on the GBC. So we took some test areas. Krishna West, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. Bhakti Vedanta College means they've got 2 members on the board that don't want to put it in ISKCON's name. Somehow or other they've drifted off. Well, let's talk. Rather than just whack them out, you're out, or whether, okay, when everything's fine, I'm okay, you're okay. Let's talk it out. Let's figure out what's fair and right and true. So that's the stimulus for the thing. And we took these as test cases. There's another one, I forget the name. Somebody else is going weird. Not that all these people are going weird, but this one really is going weird. So, how do we deal with that? So there it is. That's what this unity and diversity, what that's talking about. Next. So day 2, governance structure, succession, technological integrity. What is that all about? So what that means is, are we managing ISKCON in the best way? We've got a system. And we look at different management structures, different configurations of how different organizations, you know, are they all a congregation? Everybody agrees? Do they work by consensus? Do you have a single director? You know, all different organizational structures. And the conclusion, well, does it say it there? The consensus was to retain the current executive committee system, but enhance SO's role. This is the executive support office, like that Parijata Mataji for communications. We've got a wonderful devotee. He's one of the top business consultants in Europe, Nanda Kishore. The guy is a whiz. He is so smart. And he's a devotee. He's an initiated devotee. You know, and gradually we found out about him. We found out what he does. We brought him in. He's now retired, and he's assisting the GBC Executive Committee. He doesn't have any control role. The GBC makes a decision. We're like a palsic hand. The brain makes a decision, but can the hand actually execute it? So there's a disconnect there. How do the GBC if you look back at the GBC rules and regulations and decisions, there's a lot of good stuff in there. But how do we get it done? Our actual execution is not that good. And working with devotees, we may have to do this in 2 parts. My father, who was a good man and helped me a lot in Krishna consciousness, helped me be a devotee, you know, not like spiritually. Prabhupada's my real father. But he was a good man, and he was a businessman. And he was asking, how do you run this place? He was with Marsh McLennan, executive director. He knew how to run a big organization. He said, how do you run this place? So I began to describe. My father said, wait. You don't have, you know, performance, you know, rewards. You don't have a promotion system. You don't have, you know, pay for, you know, performance. You know, you don't have quality, you know, you don't have bonuses and pluses, and you don't, you know, and he was like, he said, whoa, how do you run this place? I said, well, it's a volunteer movement by inspiration, excuse my French. He said, sweet Jesus. He said, how is it possible? So to run a voluntary movement, and devotees are independent-minded, you know, you have to convince them. You're not just going to they've turned their back on the material world and all those forces, and you've got them to all row in the same direction. It's like trying to herd cats sometimes, you know. Devotees just don't, okay, jai, you know, they're intelligent. They want to, you got to convince them. So it's interesting. So this was about how do we, you know, succession and capacity building. This was about how to improve the management of ISKCON, how to find future leaders, how to develop them. The other thing was, like I said, was succession. So, and then also, we've got to spend some money on some software. You know, how do you keep track of everything? We don't even know our properties. Now, we've got, for the last 3 or 4 years, the Global Property Office, but we should have a dashboard that shows us every single ISKCON temple, who's in charge, who are the board members, is it properly insured? This is Mahaprabhu's movement. And we're just whimsical and, well, it'll all work out, you know. That's not mature. That's not intelligent. That's not surrendered. There's a famous story. We'll end in about 5 minutes, and we'll do this in 2 parts. There's the famous pastime when Prabhupada called for Giriraj Maharaj, who he trusted very much. And Prabhupada asked, in his last few days, maybe the last few weeks, he called Giriraj Maharaj in the middle of the night and said, "Do you think this movement will go on after I'm gone?" And, you know, sincere soul, and as most of us would have answered, Prabhupada, as long as we follow your instructions, as long as we follow the regular principles, as long as our sadhana is strong, everything will work out. It's true. But Prabhupada added organization and intelligence. Organization and intelligence. You need to add that in, you know. At least somebody's got to got their hand on the steering wheel. So that's what this is about. Nandi Kishore, that devotee I mentioned, who's fantastic, he was talking, we got to get software to manage these, and we got to spend some money. We got to raise the money. Okay, so next. We'll do 1 or 2 more, and then we'll end. Resolutions passed. Adoption of, you know, this doesn't mean much to you guys. It didn't mean anything to me. But there's software out there. It costs like $20,000. But you've got it for life. You've got upgrades. And it helps you manage all this stuff. Manage our bank accounts. Manage our properties. Keep track of the devotees. So that kind of thing. So there's this is mostly talking about software and guidance, and then how to put policies in place and how to follow through. Anyway, you got the rough idea. And so we're gonna improve the systems we've got in place, and we're gonna add every year a couple more GBC online plenary meetings. Okay, we'll do 1 more. Maybe what's next? Okay, I think we'll end there. And we will pick up next Sunday and finish off. We've got there's some other flavors and some things I think you'll like. There's some other photos, so we'll pick up next week. Thank you for sitting so patiently. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are you taking questions, Maharaj?
Well,